All right, so I'm in a part 2 now of this video because I got cut off somehow on the first video. So, anyways, I said emotions lead to thoughts, which lead to actions. And that's a pattern, right? That's a pattern that you play inside of yourself. That's what it means when you're triggered, by the way. I'm sick of that word because I feel like people don't know what it means or what being triggered means is something external hit play on a pattern that's alive in you. It's your job to heal the pattern, to see the pattern, to be honest about the pattern. It's not the other person's fault or the other thing outside of yourself. That can't be changed. You can only change what's inside of you. So that's why when you're triggered, it's better for you, it's more empowering for you to see and realize that there's something alive within you, and it's a pattern, right? It's a way of consistently thinking and feeling that's been overdone, and now it can get triggered so easily by something outside of yourself. You are not in control when you're triggered. So the most empowering thing for anyone to do is to be aware of their triggers and to heal them, to work on them, to make it so that they're not so sensitive, that the trigger isn't so sensitive. It's like if a play button, if someone walks by, it hits play, or if someone barely touches this button, it hits play on the pattern. You don't want to be that susceptible to anything outside of yourself. So that's what all of this is about. So, anyways, if you have an emotion that you spend a lot of time in, like, let's say you're always angry. It's easy for you to be angry. You're not uncomfortable with anger. You're irritated a lot. You're bothered a lot. You're impatient a lot. You're frustrated. That's all anger. Okay, no problem with it. It's just an emotion, but get in touch with anger. What are you angry about? Be okay with sitting with it, right? And then realize, what do these angry emotions tend to say in my head? What do I say in my head or out loud when I'm angry? You might notice that you say the same sort of things, or you think the same kind of things when you're angry, when you're irritated, bothered, frustrated, whatever. That's all anger. And you tend to have these sorts of thoughts. I'll just give you some examples. Why can't anyone do anything right? Why does it always have to be me? I don't have time to wait. Those are just some examples. Okay, so that might be the voice of anger, the thoughts that you have when you are in the emotion of anger, or the words that you have when you're in the emotion of anger. And that leads maybe to certain actions. I don't know, maybe throwing things, maybe snapping at someone, maybe what's the word? Like cutting yourself off, like blocking yourself, putting yourself in the room, ignoring others. So the emotion of anger led to these thoughts and words, which led to these emotions. That is a pattern. Okay? Name that pattern, a person's name, like, I don't know, Harry. Shit, it's Harry again. I'm acting like Harry right now. Then it makes it easier for you to disassociate from the pattern and say, Harry, I know you're really upset right now. I get it. I get that you're angry and you're trying to help me. Harry's trying to help me stand up for myself. Harry's trying to help me be productive. But I am not going to be receiving Harry's help. I am not choosing to embody Harry right now. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be mellow. And Harry, you're not welcome. You can do your thing over on the side, but no, thank you. I am not going down that road with you right now. Thank you, though. Okay, that's a much more empowering place than to just be in reaction and get angry and pissed and then say and think these things and then do these things. So naming the habit or the emotional pattern is an empowering step for you, and it will help you become more conscious and raise your level of awareness. And in my other video that I've referenced like 5 times, the one that's called Stop Letting Your Negative Thinking Have Its Way With You, something like that, I talk about I give another example. So you might want to watch that of my inner critic. I had this pattern that had certain emotions. The emotion was unworthiness and self-loathing, which would boil down to, I'd say, mostly sadness, a little bit of anger perhaps. And then it would lead to these thoughts of, you're a piece of shit, you can't do this, blah, 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 blah. Those are the thoughts. And then the behavior would be self-harming or meltdown. That was the behavior. So I learned this in a course, by the way, ETA, emotions lead to thoughts, which lead to actions. That's the emotional trigger. That's the emotional pattern that is triggered in you, and you want to become more aware of it. So name it. Okay, that I'm kind of combining what I've learned and what I've experienced into this lesson, but the ETA thing is not mine, but it's very, very helpful. So, okay, awareness of your reactions. That's one way to increase your level of awareness. Another way is to become reflective of yourself. Become reflective. What does that mean? Okay, in my mind, I think this is what I think. It means maybe writing every night about how you felt and practice. It's like developing the skill of being self-observant. Because people usually who are in reaction don't usually think of how they're being in the moment, but you need to start somewhere. I think the next best thing is just reflect on how you were that day. How did you feel? What were your emotions? Were there certain ways that you were with someone that were that you feel weren't your highest self, like you weren't really being your best self? Maybe you were snappy. Maybe when someone asked you if you needed help and you did need help, but then you're like, no, I don't need help, I'm fine. Like, why did you not say that you needed help? So this is just a way to reflect on your true motivations and your true feelings that you had that day. I think journaling is a perfect way to reflect. It's developing the capacity to become self-aware in the moment. We have to reflect to become self-aware in the moment. And then my next thing, of course, is self-observation. Be observant of yourself in the moment. For me, in my book, the best way to develop self-observation or self-awareness is through meditation. Because when you meditate, you develop stillness, but you also realize as you're working to be still and silent and sit with what comes, you will realize that there's a lot of chatter happening in your mind. Your brain wants to think of a million things, do a million things. You're fidgety. It's hard to sit still. And you start to observe that and see, wow, I'm really having a hard time meditating and just being still or just focusing on my breath. And you see that behavior or that tendency, and you let it go. You don't judge it. You're like, I'm just noticing I'm having a hard time sitting still and just focusing on my breath. I have 10,000 things going on. I'm going to choose to sit still again. And you do it again and again and again in a single meditation session. And what that is doing is it's showing you that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. So if you're the observer of your thoughts, then who's observing? Who is it that's observing? How am I observing myself? Does that mean I'm not myself? Kind of, because it's showing you you're not your ego, you're not your patterns, you're not your conditioned responses. You are something more. And that's where self-observation is trained. That's how it's trained. That's the best way I can say it. And I don't have a better way to offer. I'm sure there's other ways you could develop self-observation, the habit of self-observing. Okay, well, here's another way to self-observe. before you say something in response to someone, you take a pause, you take a moment, take a breath, or you count to 10 or you count to 3, whatever. And that's a way to develop space as well between your reactions and your true self. So self-observation, okay? And then finally, another way to increase your self-awareness and consciousness is to work on yourself, to develop yourself, to not be afraid to go into childhood, to not be afraid to go into what's really behind how you feel, to analyze, to ask questions, to be open. So, I mean, I'm a huge fan of working with people who have been on the path that you are on, but they're just a little ahead of you, or they're on the path of a place you want to be. So that's why I got help from a therapist. This is someone who I knew had done a lot of work on herself. She was very, she'd been doing this for a long time. And now I feel like, while I'm not a licensed therapist or anything like that, I have a lot to offer people because I walk the walk and I talk the talk. I've been there. I'm developing myself constantly. And so my point is, don't ever be afraid to ask for help. Don't judge your reaching out for help. It's not, I mean, it is help, but how I see it is, it's a shortcut. I may not be able to find all the resources that these other people have found. I've worked with so many different types of healers and therapists and coaches. And every time I have, and every time I do, I'm gaining more of I'm gaining more experience. I'm gaining more knowledge, more insight. And I don't know if I would have found that insight, honestly. It's like if you want to get fit and you've never been fit before, but you want that, don't you think you would improve or learn a lot more if you work with a coach, like a trainer who could teach you the ropes? I mean, you don't want to just hire any trainer, just like you don't want to hire any coach or therapist or healer, right? Or healing practitioner, I should say. So obviously you want to be discerning with the help that you take, but that you go out and find. But I think the most important thing is to not do it alone, and to make the conscious effort and set that intention consciously that I'm going to develop in new ways. And so because they're new ways, I'm going to need someone. I need to bring someone in. And I always call the people that I've, used their help as my A-team. I call them my A-team. My A-team are the people who are, they're professionals. They do good. They might be energy workers. It's like if you're a masseuse, everyone's their own self-healer, right? So let's say you're a masseuse, you can massage others, but it kind of isn't always fun to massage yourself, even though you could. I like to go and get a massage, even though I'm a massage therapist. I'm not saying I am, but I'm giving you an example, right? It's not saying that you can't help yourself and you can't help heal yourself, or you can't grow on your own. Of course you can. We all have the power to do that. But I don't think we make as much progress when we do it alone. We definitely stay limited by our experiences when we do it alone, because if you go out and seek help to develop from a coach or a practitioner of some sort, you're also gaining their experience, their world experience. Things that you would have never had access to or thought about is brought to you by this other person's life and their experience. So you're becoming more of a worldly, you're developing your capacity as a self-healer when you take in the help of another person who can help you grow and who walks the walk. I think that's really important. You definitely want to find someone who you can trust. It feels good, you just have a good feeling about them. And also that you can see that they do their own work continuously. They're not just people who worked on themselves once or for a while and then stopped. The self exploration and the self inquiry should never stop. That's how I see it, anyways. All right, so that's my part 2, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.